I can forgive it, the shallowness, because the moment-to-moment gameplay is just so fucking enjoyable. I think the game feels pretty simple compared to MTG. I disagree, man. So I'll show you exactly why I disagree, and it's gonna bore you to death. It's gonna bore you to death that I disagree because of that. So I don't really care. I'll replace these, I guess. It's fine. The reason I can forgive it, the deck building shallowness, is because of this little thing you'll notice here. So it's my turn, okay? It's round 1, and it's my turn. I'm the attacker, and I'm going to pass. Now it's the opponent's turn. We're still, you know, in round 1. I'm still the attacker, and I am still going to pass. Opponent's going to develop threats. I could probably use Brittle Seal, but I'd rather not. I usually lose to this AI, by the way. Okay, so now we're round 2 and I have 2 mana. And this is what really is important here. Like, this little thing is such a game changer for me. It's so stupid. The fact that when their turn comes up to be the attacker, I get a refill of my mana pool is a big deal. Like that right here, that like the fact that I have a turn, I can develop threats, threaten attacks, whatever, and then I use up all my mana to set that up, and then I give them the turn, and it's their turn to be the aggressor. Now I get my mana back, and I can still respond. In Magic, it's one or the other. You either push the face or you hold shit back. There's no in between. You gotta do one or the other. Not always. Sometimes that's why cheap spells are so good in Magic. Instant speed spells in aggro have to be cheap as shit for you to justify playing them very often. Otherwise, you can't justify jamming them, right? In this game, they just say, actually, you know what? Fuck that. Don't worry about your mana. Well, we'll kind of worry about it, but not really. We're gonna give you back your mana pool anyway. The fact that you can also bank the mana as you do nothing opens up a ton of, you know, strategic depth. So here I can Brittle Steel the 3/2 not to take 3 damage. I don't have much of a payoff for doing that, and I could just keep more MP open. Like this 2 mana is going to get banked up in the 3 mana here. So you can see here, the second resource is called Spell Mana. Notice that I have 2 mana here, right? They just attacked. I did not have a creature to block. I did not use a spell to use up my mana. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass. This 2 mana here is going to go into my spell mana. It's going to move over to my spell mana. So now I have 3 mana for units and 3 mana for spells. Now I can't go beyond 3 mana for spells. So I can't like bank 7 or 8 or 10. 3 is all I've got. It's a bit of an overhead. I could use a 6 mana spell here. 3 mana plus 3 spell mana. That works. But I can't use a 6 mana unit. I could use a 3 mana unit and a 3 mana spell. But then I empty both my spell mana and my normal mana. So what I can do here, which is probably what I want to do, is I'm the attacker. So I'm going to play this guy, which is, it has the ability Challenger. Challenger is a bit of a boring ability. Well, it's not boring. It's actually very powerful, possibly a bit too much. Is I can just jam this guy out as an attacker and pull an enemy to force them to block me. And then I can, you know, just end the turn. Maybe they use a trick, maybe they don't. Their creature died. The turn is over. My spell mana is still active. If I wanted to use this for whatever reason, I could. No reason to at the moment, I don't think. But I was efficient with my non-spell mana, and I can conserve this one. Now I have 7 full mana for spells. I could use Winter's Breath if I wanted. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my mana for units. Ash is going to come out. I'm on their turn here, by the way. This is their turn. It's not really like a Magic turn where you're used to them having, so they have the full turn to themselves. It's like, no, they play something, I get priority back, right? On each turn, we just pass each other priority. We just keep passing priority back and forth. There is no one player has a turn and that's it. And then Magic has that too. Magic has priority passes. It's the same thing. Except in Magic, I never have mana to do anything 99% of the time. So I just can't do shit. Right? If you play, oftentimes it's like, I'm tapped out, just do your thing. In this game, it's like, yeah, I could be tapped out, but most of the time I have something because it refills. So they attack. I'm going to set up a block with Ash here. I'm going to set up a block with this guy here. And then I'll click block. If I want to, I could just use these burst spells. Not sure how much that's worth, though. I do have the app that shows the cards. Might have to reset it. It should work right now. If it doesn't work, I don't know what to tell you. It might be bugged. Reading the other people's resources is a strategic point of Magic, and here too. I know they have 3 spell mana. I know they have 3 open mana. They could just play a 6 mana spell on me. That is still the case. So my offensive turn comes around, they get a refill in their mana pool, and I get a refill in my mana pool. Now I'm the aggressor. In most cases here, I'll end up being the aggressor. So I'm going to play Lux. She'll come down. And I get, you know, a 5 MP unit. Again, they cannot attack me. I'm the one who swings here. So what I'll do is I'll jam both Ashe and Lux onto the field. They will probably attempt to block if they really want to just, you know, not take the 10 damage. They did not block. When she attacks, she frostbites the strongest enemy. And then I can end my turn, and I still have 3 spell mana to use Ashe's Flash Freeze. I can use Brittle to Steel, and I have my 6 full mana open, which means I could use a Winter's Breath if I wanted. And this here, like this mana refill, is what I think makes this game. So a lot of games have experimented with like priority passes and whatnot. Like that's been done. Infinity Wars comes to mind as, you know, as having done that. It was like they called it simultaneous turns. Other games like Tekken or Nova Blitz or Clash Royale have something of a constantly refilling mana pool, but it's much more like a real-time action. This game is saying, okay, we're going to give you priority passes like Magic, but we're going to give you the mana to actually do something no matter what type of deck you are, which is a massive, massive, massive difference. Yes, I've played Mythgard. I have a near full collection on that game. Massive difference. The one thing that Mythgard actually doesn't do very well is instant speed spells, right? Whereas this game actually found a way to do it. And this is, like, you play this and you think, why the fuck was that not done exactly like this before by somebody else? You know, like that. This is one of those things that's like kind of funny. So there's no need. I can't drag my creatures out on the board. So what I can do here is I could just play a creature like Iceville Archer. I'll Frostbite their 3/2. Make it, you know, go down to 0 power. I think Frostbite as a 0 power setting is probably broken. They probably have to make it like -3, -0 or something. Give it a ceiling. Like infinite reduction is a bit too much. I think it's just definitely too much. It's definitely too much. So we'll Frostbite the 2/3 because I can. And then I'll use Ashe's Flash Burst or whatever. There's not much of a reason to do that. But I could. It'll level up Lux, which is worth something. So we Frostbite the Warden Spray. Did I? Oh, I only spent 4? My bad. How did I misread that situation so badly? Oh, no, I didn't spend 7. That's true. So now they attack. They could have attacked, that is. But they had only 0 creatures, 0 cost creatures. I can Winter's Breath and Frostbite all enemies. That'll level up Ashe, and it'll level up Lux. And when heroes level up, they do something as well. This game would be better with 3 lanes? Hard disagree, my dude. Hard disagree. I think you're, like, again, you need to play it. You need to play it yourself to get a grasp. Like, to get a, I guess, like a firm grasp on how difficult it is to already, like, figure out the right play in a lot of cases. When I was watching it on Twitch, I actually just didn't think it was good. Like, I really just didn't think the game was good. I know that's, like, kind of sucks to say, but, like, I really just didn't believe in the game. I really did not. I was like, really? Yeah, I don't know about that. So Ashe Frostbite is the strongest enemy, and they're dead. So this is a bit of a boring example because I played against AI, and there's a lot of nuance I didn't bother going over, but I think the biggest thing to sort of remember from, like, that probably catapults this game into from just, oh, generic mobile game that's turn-based to, holy shit, this is actually insane, is that refilling mana pool and the priority passes. The best thing Artifact did was the priority passing. That's the best thing Artifact did. Like, literally the possibly only good thing that it did. That was it. That was literally it. What they didn't do was heroes that level up. An actual, like, feeling like you're actually in control of what's going on in the field, because you just didn't feel that way. And the alternating between the aggressor and the defender is a very interesting concept here, because technically you can just choose to play on the opponent's turn all the time and never actually develop on your own. Right? This is the equivalent of like a draw go deck in Magic, but like it works. You take the opponent's turn to set up your threats, or sometimes you're under too much pressure, you just have to do it on their turn to hope that when they swing, you just, put something down. So people are really like, when I first saw the game, all I saw, like the only thing that I saw was, oh, you have creatures that are adjacent to one another and they like buff each other, and oh, well, like I guess that's it. Like that's the only complexity the game has. It turns out that they basically have phases, like Magic does. They don't have like a technical upkeep. Like even Hearthstone kind of has phases, like, at the beginning of your turn, something's like Lightwell, start of turn with Wording Stones. Start of round, you get an extra mana gem this round. Now they didn't make it like an upkeep step, right? Like Magic, where you have to pay a cost and there's like upkeep. Oh, you can do something here before drawing the card. But they could if they wanted. Like the tech's clearly in the game now. If they wanted to probably add another phase or another stop somewhere, they could probably design around that. It's not necessary though. Definitely not. Like you can take away, this is the funny thing, you can take away a lot of the phases of Magic and still probably keep a fairly deep game. And I think that they kept the most important stuff, which is like instant speed spells are actually very different in this game. There's slow spells, right? That can only be cast outside of combat. Sorcery speed, right? That's what it is. And you can't respond to somebody else. If they cast a spell, you can't cast this. So you can't respond to something they do. That's sorcery spell. Fast spell is instant speed spell, but the opponent can respond. Burst just goes through. It's like split second, right? So you have 3 speeds of spells in this game. And split second is actually a really big deal, because Magic doesn't have a lot of split second spells. It just doesn't, really. It just kind of doesn't. Which is a bit of a... I mean, it does, but like it's not used because Magic would probably fall apart if they made good spells that had split second, right? We used to have those back in the day. They used to be called interrupts, but they've been merged with instants effectively, so it doesn't really exist anymore. But those used to be a thing. And having that 3-speed spell system does a lot to actually make spells feel somewhat distinct, and it adds, again, another tweaking knob to the balance. Oh, turns out Brittle Steel is broken as burst because you can't respond to it? Fuck it, make it fast. And maybe something changes about how it interacts with some of the things people do. There might be a way to actually respond to it. Another, knob to tweak. Magic doesn't really tweak knobs because once they printed a card, it's out in the world for the rest of time. And they have to errata it if they want to fix it for whatever reason. So, how do burst spells work? Yeah, it's kind of uncounterable. Exactly. Like the thing is that it's not even uncounterable. You can't even act, because like in Magic, uncounterable would be I put the spell in the stack and you can like take it from the stack and move it away. In this game, if they wanted to interact with burst, what they'd have to have is something like a face down card that when somebody casts a burst spell, this flips over and like negates it or whatever. Because as it is, you don't give priority back. So something would have to automatically react, right? Which is not how the game plays at the moment. It just basically doesn't... Yeah, it's split second, exactly. It just straight up resolves. You can't do anything about it. It just goes through. Nothing else can be on the stack with it. It just does its thing. So I'm like a huge fan of... This is like hyper instant. Is there a counterspell equivalent? I saw one in blue. I'm not sure if it said counter. I don't know if it said counter, but it was like a... Did it say negate? I forget what the actual keyword was. Stop, yeah. Stop a fast spell, slow spell, or skill, exactly. And I just want to point out that like slowing a skill here, this is important. This is like a very important bit to really integrate. What does this mean? What is a skill? A skill, as it turns out, is something that units do. Let's say well, that doesn't apply here. Doesn't actually have skills. I need to find one with a skill. There's the one with like the bird. Anivia has one, right? Anivia has one. Yeah, there we go. So Anivia says, when she attacks, she deals 1 to all enemies. Maybe I don't even know what this is. Like, fuck it, it's a bird. When Anivia attacks, deal 1 to all enemies. And this actually puts a skill on the stack. Kind of like in Magic, when, you know, you attack and something pops up on the stack, and then you can say, oh, I'm responding to that. So Deny is actually the equivalent of like a counter spell with Stifle, you know, sort of sprinkled in. So it has the counter spell component to it, and also the Stifle effect. So it's basically disallow, exactly. It's basically disallow. So it's a pretty interesting part of the game. Like, they have that, but it's not used like Magic used it. And the reason why that probably doesn't need to exist in this game is because they refill your mana pool. Is it better for you to simply, like, is Deny really what you want to be doing all the time forever? Maybe that's the best strategy, but like, there are multiple ways in this game to deny things at instant speed, or like during the opponent's turn, because you can play on the opponent's turn when they're the aggressor. You can literally play Wrath of God for 7 MP. For, you know, it's pretty costly. It is costly, but you can technically do it with the Ruination, you know, for 9. There's another one at 7 that basically, anyway, it's a little bit different, but it basically wipes them off the board. So Ruination wipes the board completely for 9. It's a slow speed spell, right? So if they're the attacker and they choose to do something before their attack phase, you can wipe them out. So they can't afford waiting sometimes. So they have to play their threats during your turn, so that when their turn comes around, they're ready to swing, and you can't use Ruination, right? So the fact that I can play on your turn is a super big deal. Like, it makes such a big difference, because it means that you know how in Magic you have like a Drago archetype, and that is just like, I'm going to draw cards and counterspell your shit and not play threats. I mean, that can exist here. It can be done, and I've seen like a few lists that seem really fucking top notch. But you don't have to. You could play units instead that work as a control element as well. And there are units that can control the board pretty nicely, which again is super good. So I'm a pretty big fan. Disallow counters creatures, yes. From what we've seen so far, and that's maybe the big difference with, you know, creatures and with Magic in this game, is that you can't respond to units being played. Dropping a unit on the board does not give the opponent priority, as far as we know. Like, there's no, I don't know if they have plans to add something like that to the game at some point, but units are just not, they don't go on the stack. They're not a spell, you know? In Magic, everything's a spell. Instant speed spell, sorcery spell, creature spell, planeswalker spell, all the things are spell. Everything's a fucking spell. In this game, just like Hearthstone, creatures are not spells. But the reason why that doesn't matter as much is because you're not playing a counter spell game nearly as much. Like, it just doesn't matter. You can just play your own units, your own spells that wipe the board instead, which is the equivalent of countering a unit, which I think is just fucking phenomenal. So, accept lands. Yeah, sure, accept lands. I mean, yeah, we can nitpick about Magic's differences, but the point is everything you cast is a spell. Farron Doc with the 9 months! Know what that means, ladies and gents? Let's print a baby. Sorry, I mean birth a baby. Do you think this will be a good game? I think it will be an absolutely insane game if developed properly past the initial phases. And again, the thing I want to see most is them finding a way to add colored mana to the game in some way or another, whether that's through deck building, in-game actions. But I'll probably talk about that in a YouTube video at some point. I'll have to actually make one. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Is there a downside of running multiple regions? You can only run 2. That's exactly my criticism. That's like my only gripe with the game is I feel like there's a bit too much hand-holding in deck building. And, you know, there's not that much hand-holding. And I'd also like to just mention one thing that's a big deal. They don't actually have to print filler because you don't open packs in limited, right? So you're not gonna open a shit ton of commons you don't want, right? Because you literally cannot buy packs. All you can get are wild cards that you use to craft cards you care about. So they don't have to come up with like a 500 card set where like 479 of them are fucking useless and 21 of them are relevant. You know what I mean? Like there's just none of that. That's just not necessary. So most of your collection that's like might be useful somewhere, and if it's not, they can always buff a card and make it fit somewhere, right? Like it's always possible to do that in a CCG. It's very different. And their monetization model means that while there can be like some feels bad moments about like a card you crafted being nerfed, in general, cards should find a home at some point for something, which I think is kind of interesting. Gore TV, do you think the flavor of this game is enough to entice players from, say, MTG? Or do you think Runeterra will be an option for League lovers? Listen, I don't give a fuck about League of Legends. I just don't. I just don't care. I just don't care about Poros, and I don't care about Heart of the Fluff and Avaros. Like, I don't know who these heroes are. I just don't give a fuck. I literally don't care. I don't know them. I don't care for them. I don't know who they are. Their aesthetic resonates. You know, Yasuo, when I played him, I was like, oh, he probably is gonna slash some shit. Next thing you know, I mean, I knew him for sort of vaguely. Yeah, he slashes some shit. I was like, oh, Zed's probably gonna be a creepy dude. Yeah, he's a creepy dude. Oh, Braum is gonna be the dude who wants to buy you a beer at the bar. He's like, that's exactly who he is. You know, there's a freaky dude trying to come in and hit you in the face, like, hold the fuck up. You know, that's him. So the aesthetics always work. She sounds a little bit insane. Yeah, she's basically like, yeah, it works. The characters you don't need to know League of Legends to appreciate the character design, because they're designed in a way that makes them recognizable. And that's actually one of the challenges League has had to do over time, is make distinct characters that actually feel like they resonate with people. Like some of the more recent champions, for instance, in League that I've looked at, that I've seen, I was just like, what the fuck is this? And even the developers probably don't know what the fuck is this, because they're just like, I don't know what archetype to build into this game anymore. They don't know how to create a character. They're going to be like, this isn't a rehash of that other character, right? It's like when you play, have you played, I'm going to get fucking like so much hate for this. Have you played Super Smash Ultimate? Okay. Just legit, like, can we please just have a real talk about this? How many fucking characters, and even in Melee to an extent, are just like a dude with a sword? I'm not talking like Link with a sword and his fucking ball. I'm talking a dude with a fucking sword. And he's got like a blue coat or a red coat or a yellow coat or a fucking, I don't know, like a yellow hair, Super Saiyan look, like a different voice. They're all the fucking same. There's like 50 of them. And they all have different movesets. But when I look at them, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know any of these fucking guys, and they're all interchangeable, right? And what League has tried to do is not have that happen. It's made a conscious effort for you to, like, when you look at a character, you're like, you can probably deduce at least some of the character from just looking at them, right? Given the context that they're put in and the background and all of that, and the pose, and like some of the character sort of comes through, which is the visual design. I don't find that that's the case in most of the... That's my biggest criticism of pretty much every Japanese card game. Like, have you played Shadowverse? I loved to play Shadowverse a while back. I still don't remember card images, because they're all the fucking same. They're just all the fucking same. Barring like a few exceptions, they're all the fucking same, right? And if you've played Tekken, a game that I actually like, and, you know, it's based on Street Fighter and Monster Hunter and Devil May Cry, but like, as soon as you like zoom out of that, you're like, well, they're basically all the same, but they're not. It's very difficult to like find those uniquely crafted characters that don't overlap too much in theme, and League of Legends has done a good job of doing that. And so when you ask me, do you think the flavor is going to be good enough? Like, I don't care about these characters. I don't know them, and I don't need to know them to sort of have a feel for what they are, what they do, and does their ability resonate with the character design? Like, literally, that's all I need to have, and I find that I have that in the game. So that should be enough, right? That's also the thing Magic does well, you know, character resonance, like, you know, development of characters and make them feel distinct from others. So yeah, that's kind of like, so this is one of my biggest criticisms of a lot of visual design, and I don't feel like this game falls into that trap. You know, like one of the things that I loved about Hearthstone was how well characterized a lot of stuff was. Like you could kind of tell a druid card from a, you know, rogue card just by virtue of how the characters were presented and their abilities, and how like a lot of that was just so well done. And I think this game so far has nailed it. So yeah, I dig it. I don't know. I dig the aesthetic. So the answer is yes, I think it's fine. The only problem so far is that the look and characters really doesn't have an impression at all. Yeah, like I don't mind. The champions are fine. The problem I have is with the other characters. Like the champions they nailed. I have a bigger problem with those characters, like, you know, sparring student and all that. And I'm not sure what their solution is gonna be, because like a lot of those are just dude with a shield, girl with a shield, guy with a hammer, guy without a hammer. You know, like I just, the minions aren't yet like, I don't feel like they have that distinct identity yet. And I'm not sure what that's a consequence of. Might be because there's just too many fucking humans. That might just be it. There might just be too many humans in the game. Yeah, they're just warrior mage dudes. That's exactly right. Like, I don't, like, aside from champions, those characters definitely don't do much, right? To evoke anything at the moment. The cards don't tell a story. Yes, they don't. They absolutely don't. At least not yet. Like Legion Veteran, like I know what this is if you tell me the name, right? Like, let's assume, like for the sake of argument, right? Let's just go ahead and hide this. What does this guy do? I think he summons crows. I think his name is like the Bird Lord, or like the bird, like ancient Birdman, right? And he actually like brings down a fucking flock of crows onto the enemies, right? That's gotta be what he does, right? Except no, it has fucking nothing to do with that. What the shit? Like nothing, like nothing, like zero things. So that's kind of the problem I have, is like when I saw the character, I was like, whoa, cool. What does this card do? What? Like, this is a very generic ability to give to a character with such, and this is maybe like a fact, maybe something to work with for like, for them as card designers, is instead of making cards for art that they, like, instead of making art for cards that they're making, like they're printing, the art direction needs to be either super stringent and like have a Magic the Gathering like approach to commissions, where they're like, we want this thing evoked, this type of pose in that context, right? Like very stringent. Or they can do the other way around, where we have a lot of art. What could this be? That's Hearthstone. Hearthstone was like, look at the WoW TCG art. Let's use all of this shit and only commission bare minimum, like, you know, aesthetic swamp ooze that we have nothing for. What could we do with this? It's like, oh, yeah, this works. But like, League has a ton of, like, what is this guy, right? Like, what is he? Like, his name is Braveheart. Sorry, no, Braveheart with an armor. I don't know what the fuck he does. I think it's Constipated Veteran. I think it is Constipated Vet. Oh, dude, it is Constipated Vet. Oh my fucking god, dude, it is. This is a new meme for me. Yeah, Constipated Vet. Oh, I should have gone to the bathroom before I began. They told me. I swear, Commander, that wasn't a fart. So yeah, this guy though, I feel like, you know, kind of evokes a bit more of that, because you can see him in the like like at the front, and there seems to be other people behind him, so he's leading the charge, which I kind of follow that, yeah. This I don't, again, like, play deal 1 damage off this ability seems kind of strange, but maybe like that's fine. It doesn't have to be crazy evocative, and I'm sure that, once again, like, one of the reasons why I'm not getting a lot of those references is I just don't play League. But I will say one thing, the cohesive aesthetic of specifically this, Piltover and Zaun, I've loved so far. That's by far the most, like, Shadow Isles and Piltover are by far the most distinctive that I've noticed. I feel like there's a lot of overlap between other factions. I guess Nox, like the last 3 actually, Noxus, Shadow Isles, Piltover are all very distinctive. The first 3, man, I couldn't fucking tell you one from the other in like 99% of the cases. I would struggle to do it. I would really struggle to tell you like a Demacia card from a Freljord card from an Ionia card. Like I could see that Ionia has some, you know, Eastern vibe to it. I get it. I could definitely see that, and I can feel it. But I feel like they're not as visibly distinct from the rest as like Noxus, Shadow, and Piltover. So I think this is too early. I played all day today and I haven't seen most cards, but those that I have seen I remember. Of course you do, Rockash. Of course you do. I'm just saying, like, the art does not bring that up for me at the moment. But it doesn't matter. Like, again, I recognize them too, you know, when I see them played. I'm just saying, like, in the collection, I don't feel like they really evoke much, but they will eventually. Like, this one's so fucking good. This one is good. This is fucking amazing, right? Hapless aristocrat dies, summons a spiraling. Like, that's the most. That's just, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. This is good. Yeah. The pantsless goblins are cooler, yes, but that's like a very good thing that Magic does well. So anyway, going back to what we were talking about, which was flavor, I think they're doing it well. The monetization model seems probably somewhat tweakable in terms of numbers, but honestly, like, not really. I think it's just fine how it is. I wouldn't like change it. I mean, I think they're doing something really cool. It's nice that they're trying to break new ground, and I think the moment-to-moment gameplay of, like, the instant speed play is just, it's so well done, man. It's so well done. I've played so many games that try to do instant speed. Oh, I know, Nap. I know. My camera blocked the live total. Good call. I probably want to be right here then. Yeah, it's a simple game and it's tactically rich. Exactly. That's sort of my. That's why I like it as much as I do. Oh, that's annoying. I guess I might as well take the trade. I could use the prismatic barrier though. We can wait. I'll just challenge a 3/2 later. I have the decklist plugin. If it doesn't work, I don't know why. It should function. You can pet the Poro. Nice. What type of mechanic would you like to see in the game? I'm not exactly super picky. Well, okay, then I guess I'll just Chi Guardian my River Shaper to give it. I love River Shaper so much. I know the card might not even be good, but man, I fucking love it. I have loved this card. My gut feeling is it's probably not even good, but man, I freaking love it. So the extension should work now, doesn't it? Like, let me check. It says customize your overlay, left to right. It should work, right? It should be working. It didn't work for me even after updating. It says I have an update available, so let me just download the update. Click to restart. Oh, there we go. That's probably what's going on. So I'll swing with this since barrier is only for 1 round. After this strikes, it draws a spell, which is nice. This won't die because it has a barrier. Don't see it? Let me just restart. Settings. It still doesn't work. That is annoying. It's working? Okay, it is working. It's been having issues. Well, I hope it fixes itself because it seems to be fine on my end. So anyway, my round was over and I drew a Spirit's Refuge. So now this is the point. This is the part I love most. Like, now I get my mana back on their turn. They're pretty far ahead in a lot of ways. They are pretty far ahead in many ways. I'm really tempted to block the Sparring Student, but I probably shouldn't. Wait, this has quick attack. Screw that, I'm not blocking that. Refresh and it works? Alright, perfect. Let me know if it eventually doesn't work anymore. So hopefully they don't have a spell to cast. But they'll have, 7 open mana, so it's hard for them not to have anything at all. So Shen's ability we have with Shen Stand United. So I jam the River Shaper, and then we'll be getting at least one card draw. I only have 2 open mana at the moment, which I don't love. So we'll just bank 2 and pass the turn. What does level up do? It turns the card into like an evolution version of itself. So instead of being a 2-3, it becomes a 3-7. Well, not a 2-3, it's a 2-6, becomes a 3-7. It'll still keep the damage. It doesn't heal up. And then it gets another ability oftentimes. Sometimes gives you a card. They usually have some pretty interesting stuff tied to it. So I don't have a play that I love aside from Catheria, but I don't... Maybe I should use it anyway. I mean, I don't really have the barrier that I can use. I do have 8, though. So I could give Barrier and Lifesteal to my Shen and my River Shaper, which would be fucking phenomenal. They have a lot of mana, though. So a lot of this gets super awkward. This is elusive, so I actually can't block it. I can't afford taking 6, I don't think. Oh yeah, cool. That positioning just dicked me. So we'll recall the 3-1. What happens? Does this connect? It has to be right next to it. Oh no, it doesn't actually support during... Yeah, that's true. It doesn't support when we're not attacking. That is true. When we block, we don't actually get the barrier. So I'll give a barrier to Chen this round, and I'll give a barrier to the 2-1. They can't respond to that. They both have lifelink, lifesteal on top of that. So we will gain 4 life and trade with the 2-1. And then we'll keep Chen for the attack on the next turn. They might develop something here. Yeah, you got another birth to Fairy. Have you checked out Teemo decks? I don't think I have. No. Once again, like I have very much only explored the very beginning of this game. Oh, I have some super cool stuff in this deck to do with Dawn and Dusk.
Soldiers, to me.
Let's see what the opponent does. Okay. So they can only be blocked by creatures with 3 or more power. They're stunning the 3-2, which is a bit unfortunate. They're basically bouncing it back to the bench. How's this zone called, by the way? The reserve, the bench, what do they call it? Yeah, majority of cards have like individual voice lines because they want you to have distinguishable cards. Absolutely. I call it the bench, yeah. I don't know what to call it. That's the only name I have. Your burst spells cost you 1 less. When I have 10 mana total, they'll cost 2 less. So at the moment, I can only... This actually still works with Cytheria because she can actually block... she can actually work on defense. She doesn't just work on offense. And I can still stun an attacking enemy. Wait, hold up. This doesn't work?
What form will the waters take? Waters are still...
Oh, she only does that on attack. I'm stupid as shit. I'm so dumb. I thought it was when she was battling she did that. Anyway, end of turn. So this is interesting because it's not an end of turn, but it is an end of turn. I'm so stupid, dude. Oh my fucking god. Fucking Keg W up in this place. Omega Keg W. Pega, baby! So we will end the round. Yeah, I'm pretty done with this round. Getting digged by the AI? I am getting digged by the AI. I am. Like, I've actually... This is what I've been loving about this game is that, like, the play patterns are not obvious to me yet. A lot of the play patterns I feel so fucking lost with. So here we have a total of 11 mana, so I can use Lux
Everywhere I go.
and still have 6 left over for Dawn and Dusk to use on Cythria. Wait, do I use it on Cythria? They don't have attacking enemies. I mean, this is fast. All I have that's burst is Pretty Potato. All right, let's go Dawn and Dusk. Let's use it on the 6/2. That'll copy it twice if it doesn't die to a spell, which it could. And if we get 3 of Cythria, we'll wreck the universe. Because they'll just buff one another. It'll give you like +3/+3 and fearsome, since we are the attackers. We just carry all those to the board and swing. This seems fair. Which card is the Teferi? I think somebody said She Who Somethings was probably one of the better cards that they saw. It is reminiscent of Pokemon battle mechanic. Likewise for me. She Who Wanders, yes, that one. She Who Wins. And this is one of the things this game, by the way, I'd like to at least mention, it's kind of important, is that because you get like a double refill on mana, expensive cards are nowhere near as expensive as they look. So this card is probably not okay. It's one of the cards I wanted to craft for my deck with Lux and Ash. Ash, is that her name? The girl with an arrow. Yeah, it's Ash, I think. It's fucking... Who the fuck is it? It's Ash. It's not Ash. Yes, she's not Drow Ranger. That's in Dota. She's Ash. That's her. So, this card is, like... Like, this card... So this is important to understand. Like, a 9-mana card in this game is not nearly as difficult to get to, or, like, I guess, put down as it seems. And this is really one of the things that control decks, like, sort of cheat out. And, like, so here's what they could do to fix this card, right? They could make it 10 mana. They could make it 10 mana plus 3 spell mana. They could reduce what it kills. They could remove regen. They could make it a 3/3. You know, they could do a lot of those things. But my personal favorite solution would be you make it cost a minimum of 5 blue mana. Whatever that means, right? So that you have to be, or even 6 or 7 blue mana. So you have to be like heavy blue to justify playing it. So that when you build a deck, if you want to play She Who Wanders, you have to be primarily blue. Whatever that ends up meaning. Maybe during deck building, what you do is you choose as many factions as you want, and you have access to 10 crystals that you choose the color of, and they'll come out, you know, in that order during the gameplay. I know that you can't bank it for creatures, but maybe you could literally make mana cost as like 10 plus 3. You could, like, the idea that you can't make a creature that consumes spell mana is, I mean, you could. That's a design knob they can use. They can make a creature that eats spell mana. It's called like a spell eater.